Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Once again, it is quite an honor to be here and to hear that wonderful anointed voice of Miss Elaine Jacobs. Give her a hand. When I walked in this morning and I saw her, I said, "Good morning, Aretha." Those of you who were here for the concert that she did realized and enjoyed the extraordinary work that she did that evening. But here we are today once again, and her song is just so appropriate for the place that I wanted us to begin. The song was "Speak Over Yourself." And I brought something in today which I wanted us to speak to ourselves. And that is to speak a word of restoration into our own understanding. You know, so often when we come with an affirmation, a word of encouragement, a word of empowerment that we just sort of repeat. I'll say it and you just speak it after me. But today I want you to do something different. And that is, I want you to speak the word to yourself. In other words, however you talk to yourself, however you pray with yourself, however you affirm when you are alone, whether you do it audible, whether you do it in the silence. If you need to do it aloud, I want you to do that. But whatever means, however you do it today, these words that I'm going to share with you, I want you to speak them to yourself. Because it's only as we speak the words to ourselves that the words empower us. And that's what we've been doing all of these years, coming to a center such as this, learning how to become even more empowered than we were prior to entering in. And that's so important, that after you leave this moment and go into the next, that you take something with you. That something is said, something is heard, something penetrated the very fiber of you, something that you're able to carry with you throughout the week. You know, as we get busy in our weeks and get involved in so many things, and we become confronted oftentimes with so many different challenges, it's so wonderful to be able to reflect back to a moment such as this and to recite once again to ourselves something that we heard, whether it was in song or in spoken word. Something that would empower us, something that would uplift us, something that would allow us to continue to move forward in this great adventure that we call our lives. So with that, I want you just to kind of relax where you are. Just close your eyes and relax your body and allow your entire being to just become receptive. And then say these words to yourself. In this moment of renewal and restoration, I am restored by the power and the presence of God. It is right where I am, and I am right where it is. I am sustained by an infinite power, guided by an infinite intelligence, and sustained by infinite love. I feel it. It feels me. I am relying on this power as it saturates me. I am speaking to the depth of myself, and something within me is responding to my words. Filled with the divine glory and magnificence, I cast away all doubt and fear and accept my spiritual anointing as one blessed by God. Filled with gratitude, I affirm that the work is done. Yes, it is done. And so it is. After you have spoken that word to yourself, I want you just to reflect on a moment and think of this. You have been connected with an organization which has perpetuated the understanding that man is a thinking center of God consciousness. And that every Sunday you are reminded to talk, to live, to act, to believe and to know that you are a center in this one. Imagine that. Man is a thinking center of God consciousness. And that each moment that you consciously embody this understanding, you are empowered. You know, so long before the advent of religious science and Ernest Holmes coming on the scene, religion and the worship of religion was nothing new, and so many people involved themselves in it. But it was never really personalized in the way that it became as a result of the teachings of the science of mind. You know, before that, man in his worship experience always perceived God as something that was so far off and so far away from him or her. And that it was not something that they could believe possibly was finding life within oneself. It wasn't until the advent of disbelief that we begin to understand that we are more empowered than we ever believed that we were, because God had empowered us to speak into our own conscious understanding that which we needed, or whatever situation or circumstance one might find themselves in. But that was not in our awareness at that time, and I assume that everyone thought that they were doing the best they can with what they had to work with. And then this man came on the scene by the name of Ernest Holmes, and he began to preach a new and a modern gospel. His teachings were not new, he just presented it in a new light and a new way. Didn't take anything away from what one had believed prior to his advent on the world stage, but was showing us how we could take what we have and make it work better for us. He taught us how to remove the superstition out of religion and make it a living force, something that we understood and embodied always, something that we could use all the time. And for the past 86 years, we have been one of the many spiritual centers, teaching the divinity of mankind and furthering the understanding of this spiritual connection. Not that God was something distant from us, but that God was right where we are, and that its power and its presence was something that we used in its application to everything that was a part of our conscious experience. All of this done through the understanding of the teaching of these principles that we call the science of mind. This month, this theme, the fruit of our labor. This theme really pretty much speaks to the personal benefit one derives from their active conscious participation in the application of spiritual principle. And I want to emphasize 3 words there. Active conscious participation. You know, so often folk come to a spiritual center and they are just not conscious. They have just came in is because something that they've done so often on Sunday especially. They come in and they sit through that experience and they go out. Imagine coming into a situation empty and leaving the same. Because when Wednesday came, if there was nothing that was retained from that Sunday moment experience that you could apply to a Wednesday experience, what benefit did you derive out of it? But when you are conscious of what's going on, and you are a conscious participant of that. You know, so often folk come to church and they're active. They're busy doing a lot of things, but they're not putting anything in consciousness. They're busy with their feet, they're busy with their hands, they're busy with their mouth, but they're not busy in retaining something important within their mind. And if you were to reflect back on your busyness on that day, how did that impact your life? How does that empower you to go to the next step or the next phase or whatever it is that you want to do? You know, everyone claims that they want to have this great living experience. Everyone claims that they want to have a greater level of success and happiness and joy and so forth and so on. But they tend to fail to remember that we must put something in order to get something out. If we're not putting something in mind, why do we expect to take something out of mind? This is the teaching of this thing that we call the science of mind, where we are are today is a result of an idea that came to a young man more than 86 years ago, but we recognize it being the start 86 years ago, and that was someone by the name of Arthur J. Twine. And I imagine he was drawn to the same idea that so many of the rest of us were drawn to, and that is that there is a powerful good in the universe, and you can use it. Imagine that. You know, so many folk being great Baptists, great Methodists, great Pentecostal folk, great Catholics, and so forth and so on, going into a spiritual situation and hearing someone say that there is a powerful good in the universe, and you can use it. And I would think one of the first things that would come to mind of someone that was absolutely paying attention is, what is this power? And how can I use it? You know, it's a wonderful thing to make these great proclamations, but they need to become real to the ones that's listening to it. What is this power? Power, the presence of God. And how can I use it? How can I further my understanding of something that has been handed to mankind throughout the ages, but now it's being handed to me on a platter, saying that I can use it personally? In my prayer times, am I not personalizing it? Well, here was the big difference. We were taught to move from begging to affirming. To stop believing that we need to beg God for something, but to understand that it's already been given. Yes. But understand how to apply that which has been given to you. Everything that we've done in life that we want to master, we further our understanding of it. And the same is true of the spiritual sciences. We have to take our time, read and understand, listen and be receptive, and then begin to experiment. But unless we act out and begin to experiment on that which we have heard, our beliefs are not further. How often have you came and you sat and you listened and you've done nothing? And then you're quite surprised when calamity strikes and you're not able to get beyond it. When some great difficulty begins to plague you and you can't move beyond it. When you're in the midst of a great mourning situation and you continue to grieve. At what point do you begin to apply your understanding, that which you've been sitting in the midst of, listening and assuming, absorbing, and now it's time to apply some of all that's been coming into consciousness. So this man, hearing this, that there was a powerful good in the universe, and you can use it, motivated him to move from where he was, to begin to start, act upon an idea. And here we are today, we're the result of that idea that he acted upon. You know, I can recall a time in my life when I was new in the city of Los Angeles, and I was on a bus, and I was going down 6th Street. And as the bus was traveling east on 6th Street, it passed this building, this round dome building, and it said, Founders, Church of Religious Science. And it sparked my curiosity. Well, what was that all about? But the bus, being the bus, just continued to move along. It wasn't like today where we have a smartphone, whereas the bus is continuing to move. We can go into Google and find out, well, what's going on over there? The technology existed at that time, but man had not tapped into. So here I am on this bus, and it's continuing to move. And it moved along, and all the way to my destination, it stayed with me. What was that all about? I saw the people out there, and they all looked happy, and they were smiling. Some were entering, some were exiting. It seemed, the whole environment seemed so inviting. And it just stuck to me. Following week, I positioned myself on the bus, on the side of the bus, where I could get more of a view. And as the bus drove by, once again, I'm looking at this. And I'm seeing, this time I'm able to see the church directory. And see who's the head of the church and their order of service and that whole thing. And I'm saying to myself, I've never heard of that before. I wonder what is that all about? My curiosity was just getting the best of me. But as life would have it, I went on, and all of a sudden I found myself in another New Thought situation, involved in the Church of Divine Science and studying there and matriculating there all the way through ministry. And then one day, one of my mentors there began to talk about his experience at Founders. And as he began to share that, my mind once again went back to that bus ride. And I said, that was the place that I had saw as I was riding down 6th Street. And the more he began to share his experience, the more I became inquisitive. The more my curiosity began to become heightened. So finally, I did what so many of us fail to do. I stepped out on faith. I said, I'm going to go there and find out what is it all about. I entered into a life-altering experience. I entered into a situation where in entering into the sanctuary, presence, power, all of that we describe God to be, all of a sudden just completely overwhelmed me. And it was not that anyone had said. It was just entering into that space. Somebody had studied. Somebody had done their work. Somebody had done more than just attach a label to themselves as being a practitioner or a minister of this science. Someone absolutely believed what they had heard and allowed those words to float in that space. That was a moment where folks that called themselves practitioners really practiced the art. And you can tell when someone is practicing the art when you enter in the space where the art is practiced. When you enter into that moment, without anyone ever saying anything to you, you find yourself engulfed in a divine presence, a healing presence, a loving presence. And then the icing on the cake comes when someone begins to talk. And in that moment, it was Dr. William H.D. Hornaday. He spoke a word as such I had never heard before. So powerful, so believing, so wonderful. And I heard that word and it penetrated me in here. And all of a sudden, I was like an addict to a drug. Couldn't get enough. Couldn't get enough. Found out this man named Ernest Holmes founded this idea. The very first day that I sat through a service, I walked out of the service, walked down the street to the Institute of Religious Science, signed up for classes, and I've been talking about this thing ever since. That's impact. Something that absolutely causes the gospel to come alive. Something that absolutely causes the teachings of Jesus all of a sudden to make so much more sense in one's consciousness. Hallelujah. As I said, this man did not take an idea that was foreign. He took the age-old truths and brought it to a modern reality so that a conscious mind can understand it in plain, simple English. So I understood where Arthur Twine was when he heard that there is a powerful good in the universe and you can use it. And he heard it by the one who created the idea himself. You know, when I studied these principles and I studied them, and then I started a group after I finished all the classwork. I started a group called Spiritual Innovations. And I started this group, I guess, I had that group. Reverend Bond had spiritual inspirations. Michael had agape, and they were still located inside of guidance. So many people had all these little groups that were going on. And we were meeting at Fox Hills at the Ramada Hotel every Sunday morning. We would meet there. And some of the folks who were part of this congregation were part of that experience then at that time as well. As a matter of fact, one of the great New Thought musicians that we understand and know and have heard appreciate, Ricky Byers, that's where Ricky got started. She got started right there in Fox Hill at the Bravado Hotel with the rest of us. And I taught there for a while, and then one day I had a revelation. And I said, you know, people don't need me to read this book to them because they're not illiterate. What good does it do me to stand up before you and hold this textbook and begin to just read and share with you my understanding of this verse? I said, you know, it's really all about demonstration. We can cite all the words of wisdom that have ever been written. But if it has no impact into our lives, if our lives are not altered by it, if there is no change, if we're not elevated to a higher place of existence, if our words don't begin to contain power, what is it all for? So I said, you know what? I'm not going to teach another word. I'm not going to say another thing. If I can demonstrate this stuff as it's written, there's no need for me being out here. There's enough other folk out there doing that. It's easy enough for me to come and sit and listen like everybody else. I said, you know, we need to have a higher demonstration. And when you are motivated by that which you are hearing, that which you are being taught, that which you are coming to a center like this on Sunday mornings to hear, when you are motivated to do something more, when you are motivated to demonstrate something greater, when you are motivated to achieve a lot more in life, then you know that it's having a profound impact upon you. So I just stopped. And I went away. I'm still reading. I'm still in treatment. I'm still vigilant. I'm still knowing. And the whole while I'm doing this, my life is growing and it's unfolding. It was during this period that I launched my own business. It was during this period that I began to experience remarkable healings with other individuals who were coming to me as a practitioner. And it was during this period that one day, a very good friend of mine said to me, "What are you doing on Sunday morning?" And I said, "I have no plans. I'm going to be going down to the Redondo Beach Church Religious Science like I normally do." He said, "Well, I'm going to be speaking over at this church called Los Angeles Third Church of Religious Science. It's over on 48th and Main." I said, "There's a religious science church at 48th? He said, "Yes." I said, "I've never seen it in the magazine." But nevertheless, if you're going to be there, I'm going to show up. I'm going to come over and hear you. So I drove over that day, and I experienced a healing within myself that day because I drove over, and when I drove over there, I had just bought a brand new Mercedes-Benz. And I pull up, and I say, "Is it safe for me to leave?" And in the same breath that I said that, I heard in the back of my mind, "What is it that you believe?" What is it that you believe? And I had to forgive myself in that instance. And that's something we all fail to do.
Yes.
When was the last time that you wronged just in thought and you didn't pause and forgive yourself? Not realizing that failure to do that meant that you continue to carry that with you. And by continuing to carry that with you, it continued to have the negative impact in your circumstance. And then you look at all the stuff that's coming up and you wonder, where's this coming from? The result of your own creation. So in all of my learning, I learned that that's something that I need to do immediately. That when I've wronged, I know I've wronged, I need to forgive I'm going to forgive me, then I'll ask your forgiveness. So I enter into this sanctuary. And upon walking into the door, and this is one of the things I love so much when I watch Reverend Osteen. He said, God spoke to me right in here. I had that same epiphany. God spoke to me into my understanding and said, this is the place that I prepared for you. And I walked in and I entered in. There was these just the most loving people that you ever wanted to meet before in your life. Very senior, very loving, standard bearers, holding up that place. Walked in, two people I'll never forget. Milton Rice and Fannie Hamilton, standing right there at the door. They were at the outer door. And then at the inner door was Anna Haggerty, Reverend Lisa's grandmother. Walked in there, went and took my seat. And after I listened to my friend finish speaking, before I could leave out of that seat, one of the people who were at the door walked over to me and said, "Sir, I hate to disturb you, but are you a minister?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I felt it the moment you walked in the door. I felt that God sent you here with a message for us. Can I introduce you to the people who are in charge around here?" And when he said that, I was reminded of a scripture that said, "Your gift shall make room for me and present you before great men." So it was nothing that I had said, nothing that I had done. I just did what each of you are learning to do every Sunday morning. To walk, to talk, to live, and to act like you know what it is that's going on up in here. To be a living example of this teaching. See, it's not so much about what we say. Oftentimes, you don't have to say anything. Yes. And in that instance, I didn't say anything. I entered that moment not saying anything, and exited that moment 25 years later as the senior minister of this church. That's what Spirit does. 86 years have been this teaching of man's divinity, of understanding our connection to this thing that we call our life. The further understanding that this is an eternal experience. It's not something that only happens here and now. It's the realization and the revelation that one day we stepped out of infinity and stepped into this moment. And likewise, we will step out of this moment and back into infinity. But all along, maintaining the connection with that which is greater than we are. But yet it's constantly and continually empowering us. We come into a moment like this to learn more about that empowerment, that we can apply it to our circumstance. To realize that while we're in this form, there are going to be many kinds of difficulties that we are going to endure. Yes. But we become empowered to go beyond them because there is greatness that is residing within us. At the start of this church, at 86 years ago, was a time in the great migration of this country, especially for African Americans, where they were leaving the rural South and going to the great industrial centers of the Northeast, the Midwest, and even out West, trying to get away from all the Jim Crow and all the segregation and discrimination, trying to find a way of promoting a greater life for themselves and for their families. Being entrenched in traditional religious worship. And then all of a sudden they became aware of something more exciting, something more meaningful, something that had more of a direct impact upon their circumstance. An idea that they call the science of mind. And entering into a place like this, one of many, But you know what's so interesting? That even in instances like that, where people hear this great philosophy and this great gospel and this great loving teaching, and they migrate to it, and they think that, in this migration, that's what they're going to find. That's what they're going to be a part of. Not ever stopping to even think that even in an instance like this, they would run into some of the same. Even in this religious science experience, there was some of the same. There was discrimination. There was segregation. That stuff was absolutely profound. I brought a reading in I'd like to share with you this morning. It's part of our anniversary. And this is something that comes from the archives of the United Centers for Religious Science. Dr. Marilyn Leo is one of the archivists for the United Church, and she writes so much about the history of the church. And she shares something in here that is so wonderful as it speaks very specifically to this church and the things that happened in its unfolding. And I'd like to share that with you. And it goes this way. Whereas the practicality may have suffered somewhat over time, there are not today millions of card-carrying religious scientists, not churches in every neighborhood except in Los Angeles where it all started. Ingenuity lingers on, particularly in the sense of human equity. For example, while Ernest was in many respects a man of his era, his denomination was among the first of any stripes in America to license or ordain women into its ministry. The ethical aspects weren't always seamless. The third branch church to be organized and chartered was in East Los Angeles, led by Reverend J. Arthur Twine, an African American, with a congregation both black and white. When some complaints were murmured about this, resulting in the June 1945 issue of Science of Mind magazine dropping Eastside from first to last in the hitherto alphabetical listing of metropolitan LA branches, and tacking on the designation color. Ernest arranged with his friend Reverend Twine to go there and speak. To a hush-packed house he began. I have been told that too many non-Caucasians attend these lectures. True, there are Caucasians and non-Caucasians in this congregation. But this we must affirm. We are all children of one living God, one life that permeates all without exception, one intelligence that governs all, and most important, every man and woman who abides in the universe is a significant entity in the one universal consciousness. Our doors will forever be open to all. Whoever you are, be proud. You are a divine idea in the mind of God. Yes. Quote, unquote. Even in instances such as this, healings had to occur. Yes. This is part of our history. We look back and see just how far we have come, and how much further we have to go. Yes. This one writer said, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and the world and they that dwell therein. It all belongs to you. But what are you going to do with that which has been given you? How can you be a great steward unless you empower yourself to be such? How can you make great achievements in this great adventure of yourself unless you empower yourself to do such? The universe does not conspire against you, it conspires for you. Yes. There is this power for good that is out there for you. And it's there not just as a simple proclamation for no reason at all. It is the truth. But that being said, what will you do? Next year you'll come back to another instance like this and you'll say, well, we're celebrating 87 years. And that's a wonderful thing to do. But as you look back on those 87 years, look at yourself and ask yourself, have I grown? Have I expanded beyond where I was last year? And do I continue to see my life continue to unfold? And I continue to expand more and more and more and more and more. Am I able to realize a healing when I need it? And therefore able to share the same with someone else? You know, those of you that are here Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday need to be able to say something to someone else. But unless you can say something to yourself, of course you have nothing to give anyone else. You know, I started earlier and I talked about our gifts making room for us. You know, for such a long time we were a struggling congregation. We had a nice sized church. We were a great and we were a loving church. And we had made many transitions. When I came to the church, we were on 48th and Main. There was so much disruption over there, not from inside the church, but outside the church. People constantly breaking in, graffitiing us to death. I said to the congregation one day that, you know, I think God is trying to tell us something. And that is that it is time to leave here and go there. So we moved, went over to the Hilton Hotel over across from USC. And we stayed there for quite a few years. And we were in the basement, and there was no elevator access to that level that they had gave us. And oftentimes, you know, I was always the first one at church, and it would just hang on my heart so heavy when I saw those seniors racing those stairs coming down. And they were committed. And they'd take their time, and they would come down those stairs. So I was intrigued, and I said, you know, we have got to find another place. A place that's on a single level so folk can just walk in. So we need to look over in the Lamert Park area. So during this time, I was on a nonprofit board, Court Economic Development Corporation. Tyree Hunter was sitting there in the back. She was on that same board. And Tyree and I were standing one day out here on the corner of 43rd and Lamert. We were talking. We had just left a board meeting. And I happened to look across the street, and I said, Tyree, that building over there says police. And she turned around and she said, yeah, it definitely does. So I wrote down the information. I called this landlord, and he tried to hardball me. And just as much as he was hardballing me, I was hardballing him. And finally I said to him, I said, how long has this place been empty? And he was telling me the story about there was another church there, and they had foreclosed on the church, and the minister ran off with the money and the whole 9 yards. I said, how long has the place been empty? You want to rent or not? Bottom line. He agreed, and we moved in there. And we stayed there, and we had a good time. And finally I said, we need more parking. And that handful of folks raised the money to acquire this place. And after we had acquired this place, I happened to move up to Ladera Heights. And when I moved to Ladera, the very first person I met that lived there, who has become my best friend for life, is this man sitting right here. Charles. He came over and he introduced himself. And while we were talking, some man came by and stopped, and he was trying to raise money for his church. And I told him, sir, I don't have any money to give you for your church because I'm trying to help mine raise money. So Charlie asked me, he said, well, you're a minister? I said, yeah. He said, what church? And I told him. He said, I go to a church for religious science. I said, really? He said, yeah. City of Angels. I said, oh, Reverend O.C. Smith. He said, yes. Charlie and a few of his friends came over to our church on 11th Avenue one Sunday. And after that, he would not take no from Robbie Smith about getting me up here to speak at City of Angels. He just would not take a no. Finally, she acquiesced. I went over there and spoke. And after I went there and spoke, here the following Sunday. And as I walked in the prayer, I said, Dr. Ronnie, you're not going to leave us. You're not going to leave us. No, I'm not going anywhere. I said, but you know, it's just like what God said to Abram. I smell rain. I see rain coming in. So I said, get ready. It's getting ready to rain. Folk are getting ready to come from the west side. They're coming down here. And a lot of you that found your way here from the City of Angels, this is the angel that God used to direct your path. That's our history church. And I stepped down and I put my star student at the helm. To think, to act, to talk, and to live these principles is what's shared every Sunday morning. Now, some will get it, some will not. It's like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is like 10 virgins. 5 are wise and 5 are foolish. The wise ones took their lanterns filled with oil into the night. The foolish ones just took their lanterns. All went forth to meet the bridegroom. The scripture said, but it was at midnight when the bridegroom came along. The wise ones picked up their lanterns so they could be seen. The foolish ones, they had not prepared for anything. And they said, please give us some oil. The wise ones said, oh no. If I give you some, I'll have not enough for myself. Rather, go to those who sell oil and get you some. And while they went to get their oil, the bridegroom came. And those that had light were the ones that went forward. You have to ask yourself, what you do? Are you wise or are you foolish? You can sit and absorb nothing, or you can come and take something out of here with you. But it's all up to you. I love you just the same. Peace and blessings to all of you.